What's becoming abundantly clear is that Labor and the hapless Minister Chris Bowen now have Buckley's chance of reaching their net zero targets. I've spent weeks now speaking with farmers in regional communities who know that ahead of them is the destruction of Labor's renewables-only plan, not just to their communities, but their agricultural livelihoods. Today, too, they've been backed in by the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Chief Executive there, Andrew McKellar, saying the government must rethink these targets and they've got to stop putting all the eggs in one basket. Now, I don't like their chances of getting Chris Bowen's attention, but maybe this bloke in a couple of months' time may well be the minister. The Shadow Energy Minister, Climate Change Minister, joins me now, Ted O'Brien. Ted, thank you for your time. More and more people now are publicly, openly saying the current trajectory of our emissions reduction targets and meeting those targets, it's just not feasible. We have to rethink the plan for 2030. At the same time, we've got the government refusing to release the 2035 targets. They were due this month. Unlikely we're going to see them this side of the election. Now, clearly, that tells you everything.
Peter, I think you're reading that play perfectly. The government has a 2030 target for emissions reduction and this extraordinary 82% renewables target, which will never be met. And already we see prices soaring, we see lights going out, we see regional communities smashed. And so now their obligation is to submit their 2035 target. They're meant to do that no later than this very month, but they've gone to ground. They don't want to talk about it. And it's for the very reason you raise. They know that it will only get worse. Prices will only go up further. And you know, we have a real risk when it comes to reliability. The Prime Minister ultimately is a weak man, and he has an ideologue as a minister, and a weak person just can't bring to heel an ideologue. And it's the Australian people who are paying the price. So what do? They go to ground. They refuse to talk about the future of their 2035 target. In truth, the Australian people know exactly what's happening because they're paying the price.
And they know that 2035, as I explained tonight, will really hit hard agriculture. It'll go in even deeper in relation to transport. It won't obviously just be EVs, it'll be the aviation sector and more. None of that's going to be disclosed to voters. We know these communities, when renewables sound terrific until they're on your farm or in your back door and the jobs go from your town, right? So they all sound fabulous until they turn up in your community. Well, Labor's not talking about that. They're putting them in seats where they think that they're, completely coalition and they can run over the top of people. And then you've got this issue about gas. The conflict is huge with gas. Labor say they accept they need gas in the system as a transitional fuel, but they won't find the gas in Australia. They're going to import the gas, if you can believe it. Australia is going to import its gas, and states like Victoria are facing widespread blackouts.
Peter, if you look around the world, what country do you want to be other than Australia? I mean, our resources are extraordinary. And I was in South Korea only a few weeks ago. Our key trading partners, they look at Australia with almost jealousy because we have everything you need. But here we are in a predicament where we have a government which is ashamed of our resource sector, and therefore it is prematurely closing down coal plants. It is suffocating the supply of gas, which of course is crippling our own economy. Again, it just comes back to the madness about which the Chamber of Commerce has been talking today. Yesterday, the food industry. It's a reminder that how the Australian economy is being hit with bad Labor policy. It's not just your power bill that hits you at home. It's your groceries, your humble loaf of bread, whether it be the farmer, the miller, the baker. Everybody needs energy along the supply chain, and it's the consumers that get hit. And yet Labor just doubles down on bad policy. It's only going to get worse, which is why we've been pretty clear under Peter Dutton's leadership, that there will be a change in direction when it comes to energy in this country. We'll be proud of our resources and we will leverage those resources for the benefit of the Australian consumer and the Australian business place, Peter.
Now, I know what your boss has said about the Paris Agreement, but I'll make the point. The US is out, and three of the other top 60% emitters, so the US, India, Russia and China, they're the 60+% of world emissions. They're in that list. They're not even bound by Paris. So if basically 2/3 of the problem are not having a bar of the agreement, you've got to say Paris is dead, don't you?
I think there's no doubt that, especially with a new Trump administration, there will be enormous consequences, and we're yet to see what that really means. We've obviously seen the early days. It absolutely impacts the approach of Labor in Australia, but it doesn't impact the coalition. And Peter, the reason for that is it's exactly the conversation we've had, right? It's why Labor doesn't want to talk about its 2035 target, because Labor's entire energy policy is about trying to placate the international community like the United Nations. The coalition, we've never done that. Our laser focus is getting costs down for Australian consumers and Australian businesses. And so, of course, there's going to be an enormous impact by a change of administration in the United States. But our core policies as a coalition, we don't close coal plants prematurely. We pour more gas into the market as we continue, but a far more sensible rollout of renewables. Well, that doesn't change because that is focused on getting costs down, keeping industry strong and being a fiercely independent nation. It's Labor which is now completely lost at sea because their policy is all about the international community and nothing about Australia.
Just a quick one. I spoke to your colleague Anne Webster the other day. The seat of Mallee is her home territory. I spent a lot of time up there talking to farmers and communities. She's very happy to do it. She wants a town hall meeting. She wants to hear from the coalface. Will you come along? Pardon the pun. Will you come along and join us there, Ted?
Absolutely will be. And I have to say, Anne is doing a cracking job, both here in the Parliament, but on the ground too, Peter. And she and I have been speaking about me getting there. These communities are being treated with reckless indifference from the Labor Party. They need to be listened to, and that means listened to on the ground. And I look forward to getting there, as well as a whole bunch of other places before the election.
You are a good man. Thank you, Ted O'Brien.